At the end of the service, you need a report back from the contractor to say, I've tested this, I'm responsible for this, this is how the system works. Any faults or any issues on the system, he should highlight to you.
Welcome to the FDIA Talking Fire. In this video, we're going to be covering servicing. I think this is really relevant as there seems to be a lot of, shall we call it, gray area in terms of servicing, what needs to be done, what requirements need to be satisfied, what equipment is needed to do a servicing. I think it's also, as we touched on in the intro, with load shedding and batteries, what checks need to be put in place, how to rectify any problems, how to share that information with the end user. So Clive, I'm going to pass on to you in terms of, you've obviously been involved in servicing quite a bit longer than what I have. Any information when your guys arrive at site, what do they do and what is the first step they take?
Yeah, Hilton, so as you say, looking at the grayness, I have been doing this for a bit longer than what you have. We're going to be covering the problems that we've picked up with services and from experience. So what do you expect as a client when a guy comes to service your fire system? Firstly of all, obviously you've got a competent person that's doing the services so that at least he knows what he's doing. He gets to your site, hopefully introduces himself to you, that you know that the guy is there, that he's not some stranger wandering around your premises. And he gives you a quick breakdown of what he's doing, what he's going to be doing. He's going to be there testing the fire system. And then hopefully, as the standard requires, you should have some kind of documentation that you can give the man or woman. And you can say to him, this is what my system does, this is where it's installed, this is the cause and effects, this is what the system is supposed to be doing. If there's a fire, it's going to home the lifts and so on. This gives the service guy a chance to look at the system, look at the design certificate that's in the documentation. He can go through the logbook, see if there's been any false alarms, and so on. He should go through the building. He should look at your fire system and just do a quick walk around and see what there is. He's going to then open the panel. He's going to look at the panel. He's going to look at the equipment that's on site, and he's going to disable any outputs that could cause trouble in your daily running of the business. Because obviously, as he's servicing the system, you don't want to be shutting down UPSs, shutting down air conditioners and that unnecessarily. If it's the first service that he's doing, you've got a new contractor on site now and it's the first service that he's doing, he should service the system and he should test each and every device. See where it is, make sure it comes up correctly on the panel, make sure that the right information has been given through. And you as a client should be able to identify where the fires are or where the alarms are coming from. Because it's pointless having a fire system if you don't know what it's doing. He's going to check the cause and effect charts. So that is, if a fire detector activates, does it activate a door release? Does it give a signal to the lift homing and so on? We've disabled the lift homing itself, but there should still be an output that you can check. Are the sounders going off? Are they adequately sound levels and so on? You should have the correct tools to do this. You should have a sound pressure meter so you can see that you're getting the right sound levels. Otherwise, again, you're not going to be able to warn the people if there's a fire condition. Check the battery voltages. Check the batteries should have dates when they were installed so that they are still relevant. And on that topic, with the load shedding that we are having, we are finding that the batteries are not having enough time to charge up after load shedding. So over a period of a week, you're having your load shedding, the level of the batteries are dropping continuously, and when the power comes up, it doesn't have enough time to charge the batteries fully. So over a time period, the panel's not been able to hold up anymore. We're getting alarms in the middle of the night when there's load shedding because it's lost the power to the panel, so your mains is gone as well as your battery is gone, and the system's not going to be working. This is something to be aware of. You've got to be able to tell your client what the system is, how it's working, is it working correctly. If you've got a gas suppression system linked to it, there's certain tests and checks and balances that you have to do. And then at the end of the service, you need a report back from the contractor to say, I've tested this, I'm responsible for this, this is how the system works. Any faults or any issues on the system, he should highlight to you. It doesn't help that you test the system and just disappears because you don't know if the system is working correctly or not. This is something that you then put into your documentation as the client, so that if you have an issue in the future, you can say my fire system was tested and serviced by a competent person and this company's done it, and then you're covered for any issues that you might have in the future. I don't know, what else could there be?
Well, it's also maybe quite relevant that in terms of man building office space and stuff like that, there can be changes to the building, and it is the responsibility of the service company to identify potential non-compliances and quote accordingly. It is quite relevant, obviously, that the end user needs to understand that at the time of installation, they were required to fill that statement. Should there be a change or an alteration and modification to the system, they then need to comply to the latest standard. So if they had a system that was installed, say, 6 years ago, and the standard, and now they've changed and they've made alterations, they will therefore need the entire system to comply to 10139, the 2021 standard.
This is a big issue that we have, is that clients don't have that documentation. So this is where the whole system is failing at the moment. Me as a contractor, when I do an installation, we got handover documentation that we give to the client. And that's, amongst other things, you got a design certificate and as-built drawings. Those are your two very important items, because without an as-built drawing, you don't know what's been installed. So you don't know where to look for your fire system. So that is exceptionally important. And then as a serviceman, you come and service the system, you can see that it was installed like this, and now there's been building changes, so it needs to be modified. And that is a big issue.
So there's a lot for the end user to be aware of. I think more so than the contractors. I think everything is in the standards. Everything is quite straightforward. The requirements is what needs to be done, but the end users need to be aware, and they need to understand that their company is doing the correct thing. Monitor those batteries. I think it's the same with intruder alarms. I think everybody, in general, deep cycle batteries are not having a good time with several outages.
Yeah.
So replace batteries, check charges, and service your fire system. Stay compliant and keep your insurance company happy should there be an event.
Stay compliant and then you be safe.
100%.